All right. So on today's program, we have a someone that's come back for the third time. I'll give you a little background on this. When this guest first came on the program, it was a while ago, a year and a half, whatever. And his name is, well, at the time we were calling him Demetrius Angelus. And he spent time in jail for a murder that he did not commit. He spent time in jail for murdering his wife, but the problem is that he didn't actually commit the murder. He was in jail for something he did not commit. And so we followed his story and the abusive relationship he had with his wife, and his kids being taken away, his wife attacking him and cutting his penis, and the law enforcement in Canada not believing his story. It just goes on and on. So we spend 2 episodes talking about his story, from the abuse to the jail to the courts and everything, right? And he has a book out called The Ottawa Way, which talks about his experience dealing with the abuse in the jail system in Canada. On today's program, he is back for a third time to talk about his book, The Ottawa Way. And if you want to hear about his actual story, you can go back on the website and do a search for Demetrius Angelus or Jimmy Angelus, and you will find those 2 episodes. If you are listening to us from the actual website, coreconfidencelife.com, you can find those episodes linked right there on the same page you're hearing this show from. But on today's program, we're bringing him back here, and we call him Jimmy because that's part of his name too, right? And since we know Jimmy, we're going to call him Jimmy. And he's coming with a different perspective today. He is talking about Japanese astrology and compatibility. He's also talking about narcissism and a narcissistic personality. So we talk about his wife and some of her personality challenges as it pertains to narcissism. And we get deep into the weeds on Japanese astrology, which is similar to Chinese astrology, but slightly different. So we're in for a very interesting treat as we go along today. So we're going to have a bit of a Japanese astrology tutorial. And that'll take up the first part of the program. And after that, we'll go into a little bit of narcissism. And we should have a lot of fun here on the program. So after these messages, we will dive right into your compatibility with your partner based on Japanese astrology. Make sure you're not with a narcissist who cuts your penis. Don't do that now. Watch it. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Charlene Bowden, host of the It's Just Us radio show, president and founder of It's Just Us Productions. It's Just Us Productions is a cross-media company that produces radio and TV programs that are heard and seen by national and international audiences. Visit our website at ijuproductions.com, follow us on social media, and tune in on the first and third Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the It's Just Us radio show on the Artists First Radio Network.
What's going on, Jimmy?
Hey, how you doing, Dennis?
What's up? Glad to have you here yet again. And again, you just keep coming back, don't you?
Well, new things are happening in my life, right? We just got the audiobook released, and I'm pushing that. A lot of people don't like to read books, but they want to hear it. So, I found a very good guy named Paul Leonard. It's going to be the last book. Unfortunately, the guy got sick, and he wants to do this book before he took retirement and sick leave. And so he did this me a huge solid favor. He wasn't put off by the volume of it, because when you look at the book, it's 700 pages, but he got it down to reading it and recording it in a little under 60 hours. But don't get discouraged by it. But, like I said, it's 6 stories in one. You don't have to read every 6 parts of it. Just one part, whatever part, sort of interests you, whether it's the abusive relationship part or the jail, the prison story part or going to court, right? So, it's very good story. I'm very happy with it. Just some minor touch-ups to be redone and for the next version, and that's it. We're good to go. But and I'm happy with my website. I got a website going on, jimangelis.com. So JIMANGELIS.com. Full of good information there about abuse, my story, and where to get my book. And that's where I'm at this point, right? So
all right, well that's what's up, and we like you coming back on the program. You keep coming back for more. You've got stamina. So today we're talking about another one of your specialties, which is Asian astrology. And since we talk about astrology, numerology, and self-discovery on here, we thought we'd have you on here to continue your story, but this time coming at it from an astrological perspective. So for those who just hearing this, we've talked about your story in the first two times you was on the program. So if people are listening on the website, they can find the links on the same page. But now we're going to look at the astrology of it all. But first, let's talk about it in general. This is Asian astrology. You're doing the Japanese version of astrology, the zodiac, the circle of animals. And so talk to us about that. Tell us a little bit about Japanese astrology, how it works and what's involved.
Well, I'm really into that. I started really getting into it in 1987. Started sort of testing the waters, getting acquainted with it, and I really started getting deeply involved since 1997. That's 5 years after I got married, and after I discovered this amazing book in a bookstore. It was translated from the Japanese by Takeo Mori, and it's called The Secrets of Japanese Astrology. So the science of Kyagu. And so I found it to be more comprehensive than the Chinese at the time. At the time, the Chinese wasn't being fully translated into English, the whole concept of Chinese astrology. And this is the first time that any country in Asia had taken the time to translate it into English, all of it, and then they didn't leave anything out. And so I think that's one of the common problems with the earlier versions of the Chinese sources that came out. It was never complete. And how are you going to make a decision based on astrology if you have incomplete information? So once I found this book, it became sort of my second Bible. So the Japanese is sort of has very similar concepts with the Chinese one in terms of the 12 animal signs, and I'll briefly go over those. And then it talks about elements, 5 elements. And the only little confusion is, for some reason, the Japanese gave different names to the elements. If you look at and different from the Chinese, but the flow of energy between the elements to determine compatibility are the same. But anyway, I got into it really deeply. Like I said, 1997. After the book came out in 1993. And you can still find it on Amazon. Unfortunately, it was never, there was never other new version that came out. So it's only one version that came out. It's very hard to find, but when you do find it, I do recommend that you jump on it. So anyway, getting back to my own personal story. So yes, I wish I had accessed this book before I got married, but I only got the book about 2 years afterwards, right? And then looking back, I probably would not have married this woman that I did. If I had acquired the book beforehand. But of course, the book didn't come out till after I got married. So anyway, but still, whether we're looking at Japanese or Chinese astrology, we're still dealing, with the same animals. I don't know if you've spoken to this before with your listeners, but there are 12 animal signs, right? So if those aren't familiar with this animal sign story, it's about, this emperor who organized a race, and he had all these animals invited, and then only 12 animals showed up, and he goes, okay, for showing up, I'm going to reward each one of you with a year. Okay, so every calendar, the first year, I'll put the winner, and then for the 12th and final year, I'll put the loser, and then it will repeat the cycle every 12 years. So you had these animals show up, and so they came in they were at the starting line, and then so when the emperor was waiting at the finish line, so we ended up having the rat come in first place. But the rat kind of cheated, right? Because he was sort of hitching a ride on top of the ox, and the oxen and the bull was sort of running at full speed. And then when the rat saw the finish line, he just jumped off and finished the race. So he kind of cheated, but since he was the first animal that could hit the finish line, he came in first. So the first year in the lunar calendar, in the Asian calendar, is the rat. So the ox came in second. Then we had the tiger come in third, followed by the rabbit in fourth. The dragon came in fifth. The snake came in sixth. And then after the last six animals were the horse, the goat, the monkey, the rooster, the dog, and the last place was the pig. So, and another note, just so your listeners know, the year doesn't start in any Asian culture. The year does not start in January 1st like it does in our Western culture and calendar, right? It always tends to start late January or sometimes even early February, early to mid-February. But anyway, the animals are a good indication of a person's basic personality, right? And that's the kind of mistake that was made earlier on with earlier versions of the translations, where people thought that you can determine compatibility just looking at the animal signs, right? And so people who are reading the English version translations of these books were always telling you, oh, okay, since I'm a rooster, okay, I'm compatible with all snakes, oxen, dragons, tigers, and other roosters, right? Or, if you're a snake, right, you're compatible with all roosters and dragons and cows, right, or oxes. But that's not the case. So, a better indication of compatibility is which element you were born in, right? So, but before I even get to that, just to briefly go through the 12 animal signs and what their basic personality are. Rats are known for being charming, very social, but they don't have any really true friends. They're assertive, but argumentative, and they can be merciless when you get into an argument with them, right? For the most part, they're intellectuals. They're not really the physical type. And they take risk. They're not afraid of taking risk. Now, the ox, on the other hand, they're hard workers. They love manual jobs. They're kind of slow, methodical. They're quiet. They're loners, not very social. They're set in their ways. They don't like new things. And they can be fanatical when it comes to sort of family and marital duties and obligations, right? And one of their weaknesses is that they don't tend to grow very fast. They don't improve themselves in life very well. It takes them a long, long time to become a better person. They don't learn from their mistakes. But, for the most part, they're very loyal, but they're not romantic. They think that love is a game. It takes up too much time, right? Tigers are full of energy. They've got, they're self-confident. They're innovators with new ideas. They're tolerant and accepting of things, but they also can be very rebellious, when it comes to authoritative figures, right? They're very outspoken. They're moody. They're petty about minor things. They're withdrawn. They lose interest very quickly, and they're prone to cheating. For some reason, they just can't stay loyal to their partners. Rabbits, they're very sociable. They're partiers. They hate to be alone. They're fun people, but they tend to gossip. But still, they're very, very popular, right? They're known for being, wearing good clothes. They got good taste in clothes and good homes, and interior designs and making good decisions with their homes. They're very peaceful, but they can be snobbish and show off. And they're always they fear financial insecurity. So that's why they're always on the lookout to be financially secure in their lives, right? They're very cautious. They don't take risks, but they're very good in business and politics, although they tend to be somewhat selfish. Dragons are direct to the point. They're candid, they're self-confident, self-reliant, enthusiastic. They shine in life, right? They commit to their goals and dreams. They're very lucky with money, but they don't love wholeheartedly, and that's why they tend to avoid or delay marriage. Snakes are very lucky, successful with money, but they tend to be very tight with it, somewhat stingy. Right? They don't like to spend their money unless they have to and unless they want to show off. They're very intellectual. They act quickly. They're never indecisive. They like to have stable careers with low risk. But when it comes to love, they're very jealous and possessive, right? To the point where even when they don't really want you anymore, they don't want to break up, right? And what they tend to do is they'll start, getting what I guess people refer to as a side piece, a side relationship, a mistress or another lover. They tend to have several children in order to keep their partner or spouse, right? So the thing is, though, when they're looking for that other person, that third party in their sort of romantic, entanglement, it leads to extramarital affairs and whatever, cheating on the other end in general. It never really ends well for them, and they ultimately pay the price one way or the other. Horses are known for being very attractive, sexy. They're a smashing dresser. They're partiers. They're social. They love going out, concerts, movies, theater, sporting events. They love compliments. They're very popular. They tend to seek careers in front of the camera, in front of people, but they lose interest very quickly in their jobs. They tend to be somewhat superficial, but they are intuitive. And then they can be self-centered and selfish, right? They tend to have low self-esteem, low self-confidence in themselves. They tend to have childish tendencies, and they have weak relationships with their opposite sex because they tend to ignore the red flags, or the problems, the character defects of the other person. Goats are very charming, artistic. They love nature. They're intelligent. They're generous. They worry a lot. They're pessimists. They tend to be unhappy, they're unfulfilled, unsatisfied in their life, they lack self-control, they're irresponsible, and they make bad decisions regarding business. They're known for complaining often and loudly, and they argue, but they don't really fight for what they believe in. They just complain. So they do adapt to their environment and social circle and people around them, right? If it means that they're going to get something back in return, if they're guaranteed financial security in return, then they'll adapt to the environment, to the people around them. And they do depend on others to succeed, in life, right, to achieve that higher standard of living. They are romantic, but they don't really succeed in their relationships. Monkeys are very superficial. They're, they are sociable, but it's not, just sort of, they want to appear friendly and cheerful, but in reality, they're very selfish and they're opportunists, right? They are phony with their intimacy. They're not very authentic or genuine. And they're even deceptive to the point of doing so without shame, right? They hide their true thoughts, their feelings, their opinions, but they are very good at being diplomats. They can be very diplomatic, but at the same time, they're very conceited, snobbish, and they don't trust anyone. They love to learn new things. They're intelligent, they're innovative, problem solvers, but they don't commit to anything or to anybody, and tend to be very, very materialistic. Roosters are very outspoken with their views. They're brutally honest, but they can be insensitive in what they say and what they do. So they have a hard time to be diplomatic, but they are self-reliant. They're known as armchair warriors, which, they tend to be activists, right? And so, but they don't go out and sort of engage in physical confrontations unless it's absolutely necessary, right? They do stand out in a crowd. They're diligent workers. But even though they work hard, they rarely become wealthy behind it. They can be tact. Their tactness causes problems in their relationships with their partner and spouse. Male roosters, men born in the year of the rooster, prefer the company of women. They find the company of men boring, right? And they don't benefit from it. They don't seem to benefit from it. That's how they feel. But on a final note, they tend to be very naive in seeing the bad in others. Right? They always seem to think that people are going to be doing good, but the reality is people don't always do good. The next animal is the dog. The dog, they're fighters, they're warriors, often because they're the victims of injustice themselves, right? They often pay the price for the mistakes, the crimes, or the sins of others, right? They don't give up, though. They're always ready for life. They're always ready for the unexpected in life, right? So they're always plan ahead. They're introverts, but they express and vocalize their feelings when necessary. And they're not overly sociable because they don't like crowds. They hate being in crowds. They're not good at public speaking. They can be perceived to be stubborn, but that's because they know what they want in life. They can be pessimists, but still, they're quite dependable and credible and well-respected. They're good listeners and they can keep secrets. They're faithful and loyal to their friends and family and to their causes, but they're not necessarily faithful and loyal to their spouses. But they are full of empathy and they can relate to other people's suffering. They're altruistic, and consequently, they're always rewarded by good karma, right? They often have deep regrets about their past decisions, and they're very anxious about that. But especially when it comes to the relationship with the opposite sex. Now, the last animal was the pig. The pig was the last animal that showed up at the finish line, and they're known for being energetic and very sincere. They're reliable. They're trustworthy. They're intelligent. They're very social. They're the life of the party. They're decisive. They know what they want in life. They love to entertain guests. They love to give gifts. They're hard workers, but they rarely become wealthy behind it. They're not very lucky or successful with money, but they are very talented in the arts. They can be naive. They're not really go-getters. They're not competitive, and that's why they don't win in life. They don't have many friends. They're very materialistic, and they love comfort, but they can rarely achieve it by themselves. They do have bad tempers. They're argumentative, especially when it comes to their reputation, and they do engage in physical confrontations, as I know from my own firsthand experience. A lot of times the pig's motto is kick ass and take name. But anyway, like I said earlier, animal signs aren't a good prediction of compatibility, right? The elements are. Their elements are a better combination. The combining people's elements, are better. It's a better prediction of compatibility, right? So, like I said, we said earlier, I think the Japanese and the Chinese use different terminology to describe the elements. But when you look at it on the chart, maybe you could put it on your website, the flow of energy is the same. So whether we call
Oh, fix your audio.
Hello?
Yeah, there we go. That's better.
Okay. So I was saying that the elements, the terminology in Japanese and Chinese are different, but the flow of energy is the same. So whether we in Chinese we say that somebody born in 1977 is a we said earth. Was it a fire snake, right? The Japanese will say that in fact you are an earth snake, but when you look at the chart, the flow of energy to and from the snake, that snake born of that year, is the same. So I'm going to stick with the Japanese one, but maybe if we put on your website, the chart side by side, Japanese and Chinese, you'll see that the flow of energy is the same, and regardless of whether we call a snake born in 1977 fire or earth, the flow of energy is the same, and it doesn't really change the compatibility with somebody else born in another year. So sticking with the Japanese terminology, I'm going to say that the five elements that they use is wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Right. So the five elements represent the flow of energy, both good and bad, at a deeper, intangible, spiritual level.
All right, hold on a second. I want to make sure we do it. We want to know the elements in order, because I know they go by the digits and so forth. So they're switching around the names. So you can tell by the year, and I'm sure they go into a particular sequence, and it starts with wood. What does it start with? What's the first in order?
Well, it starts with water. Like in the chart, so water, they've even assigned numbers to it, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So and because there's in some elements like the earth, for example, the Japanese assign 3 numbers to it, but it's still eventually the same earth, the same element, which is earth. So basically, it goes from water, and then it goes to wood, and then from wood it goes to fire, and then from fire to earth, and then from earth to metal, and then it goes back again to water. So it's a cycle, right? So water, wood, fire, earth, and then metal.
All right, cool. Go ahead.
So,
are you going to talk about the qualities of each element? Yes.
Well, I can, but that's going to take up a lot of time. And I think at this point, the most important thing with the elements is your compatibility, right? And again, because it goes back to the year, if you know someone's personality based on the animal sign, right, you can sort of look at that plus the compatibility based on your element to determine whether or not that person is a good match for you whether it's from a romantic relationship or to have, a partnership in business, or, to determine, what year you want to have a child, right? To have a good, peaceful home. So I'm not going to go into that, but it's really, it's referenced and talked about a lot in Takeo Mori's book, which I will. It's on Amazon, and I'll send you the link, and maybe you can sort of direct your listeners to that. And if you want to get into that more deeply, they can. At this point, I really want to focus on which elements are compatible to determine who is the best person to have in your life, right? So according to Takeo Mori, right, and also my own experience, someone who is a wood element, right, is best compatible with someone who's either water or fire. So if I want to take a look at some of the years, right, let me just throw in an example here. So I'm a wood rooster, right? So, and I was born 1969. So the best person for me in my life in terms of compatibility is someone who was either born in, for example, if we stick to my generation, right, 1973, which is, fire, and also happens to be an ox. And that's good because if you look at the animal compatibility in most Chinese books and references and sources, they say ox and rooster are compatible. They are, but only if the ox was born in 1973, which is a fire element, and me, and me being a wood, born, in 1969. And then the other one for me, for example, would be somebody born in the water element, which would be, if I'm not mistaken, 1981. So 1981 is a rooster element, but born in the water element. So a water rooster and a wood rooster actually are compatible because of the flow of positive energy that we, between the two of us. So if I continue on with the other elements, for example, people in the fire element, they get along, like I said, with wood, somebody born in the wood element and the earth element. Because again, we got that positive energy going on, that flow of energy, right? Whereas water, somebody born in the water element or a metal element is negative energy for a fire, right? With me being the wood rooster, somebody born in the earth or metal elements is also negative energy. And I didn't know that. And I made that mistake with my last two relationships where I chose somebody in the earth element and the other one was a metal element. Now that I know, I'm going to stick with somebody who's into the fire element or water element. So moving on to the next one. So we discussed the wood, we discussed fire. So the next one is the earth element. So if you're born in the element of the earth, such as yourself, the best person for you would be somebody born in the fire element or the metal element. And you should stay away from somebody who's actually born in the water element or the wood element. And then finally, for the metal people, actually, no, there's a metal element. Then that's not fine. There's one more. For the metal people, those that are born in the earth element and the water element are positive, whereas fire and wood are negative. And then finally, for those in the water element, the metal and wood elements are best and more positive than those in the fire and earth element. Now, if two people are born in the same element, like two fires or two earths, right? It's still good. It's the next best thing. There's no positive or negative energy. It's neutral. But the thing is, you don't sort of benefit. You don't get that extra positiveness in your relationship. But there's definitely not going to be any negativity between you. It's going to be sort of a neutral environment. And then that's the next best thing. But anyway, and I think I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but people born in the earth element, they tend to discredit, Asian, Chinese, and Japanese astrology because they feel that they're always getting a bad rap. They said, oh, all it does is talk shit and bad shit about me, and they don't like that, right? So, but what can you do? It's just part of an element, right? I mean, the best thing that somebody in an earth element can do is sort of get together with somebody from the fire element or metal element, and the relationship will work, right? But only if both parties adopt non-traditional roles, right? That's the only way it seems to work with people born in the earth element, and when they get together with a fire element person or a metal element person. So, examples of that is you have a stay-at-home father with a mother who's working, right? Or if you have a family business, the wife is the boss, right? Or if you get into a sort of a marriage, right? The wife is the wealthier person in the relationship, you know, sort of a non-traditional roles.